Thanks for joining us again. We're very privileged to have Dr. Jodie Lowinger with us today from Sydney Anxiety Clinic. Just before I introduce Jodie, I wanted to just mention that as we've now sort of got in a rhythm of running these events, these webinars, it feels as though, I've said it before, we're all moving through largely the same things at the same time. And I think Jodie's presentation today is perfectly timed for the reality of the situation, which is, we're unlikely to see a huge number of people infected with coronavirus over the coming months. We've managed to flatten the curve and really control the spread, fingers crossed that we stay in that situation. But as business owners and managers, we're now faced with a different situation, which is we have our teams working remotely in a different environment, locked down, but we have to keep our companies running and we have to keep our people engaged and positive, and we have to find opportunity amongst the adversity. And so having this opportunity to talk about how we change our mindset to stay positive and help our people to be positive when we're going to be maintaining these social distancing measures for the next 90 days, according to the New South Wales State Premier this morning, reinforcing that position. I think it's incredibly important that we know how to encourage people to stay positive and keep acting in a positive way. So that's really what Jodie is all about. And I'm sure she will teach us a lot over the next hour or so. So just to formally introduce Jodie, Dr. Jodie Lowinger wears many hats: a doctor of clinical psychology, a high performance coach, keynote speaker, media commentator, and Australia's national thought leader on how to manage anxiety and build a resilient mindset. She's on a mission, a heart-driven mission, to help people to move from anxiety to action, to enable people with hopefulness and practical strategies that transform. Jodie is the creator of the MindStrength method, 4 steps to manage anxiety, build high performance, and a resilient mindset. Jodie's MindStrength products help leaders, parents, and educators around the world to build courage, confidence, satisfaction, and success. As a high performance mindset and leadership coach, Jodie works with CEOs, executives, boards, business owners, and entrepreneurs. She has 20 years experience, international experience, managing change and building high performance cultures across the globe. Private and government organizations. Jodie is regularly sought by the media and organizations as a keynote speaker and media commentator, sharing her thought leadership on anxiety, resilience, and mindset and well-being. She's also an expert panels such as Reach Out and Are You OK to promote mental health and well-being across organizations, schools, and the community. Jodie, thank you so much for being with us here today. We all look forward to hearing from you.
It's a pleasure to be here, Ben. Sorry, thank you for inviting me.
Welcome.
It's fantastic to be here and to work with you. And what I love about your mission is to really help the businesses that are here today to feel empowered with practical strategies that make a difference. And that's the key message for today. Is we've all gone through so many challenges that it's easy to get stuck in that headspace and to get hooked into that fear of something bad happening. So the key thing for today is really to look at a strategy of how to help each and every one of you to get out of that fear-driven mindset and into a more practical and effective mindset.
Fantastic. All
right, so I'll pop up the presentation and we will roll.
Just as you're doing that, we will come back to Q&A at the end of the presentation. We should have around 10 to 15 minutes of Q&A at the end. So if you can hold your questions, and you'll be placed on mute between now and then.
Yeah, all right. So a pleasure to be working with you guys today and to be helping you in whatever way meets your needs. We're going to cover a really broad amount of content today. We're going to look at mindset, we're going to look at anxiety, we're going to look at how to engage in more practical and effective action. and also how to boost your mood, given we're in a context that we weren't designed to be in. We were designed to be able to roam free and to connect with whoever we want to connect with. And the basic needs that we have is physical touch, is physical connection. So what we want to do is build some acceptance around the situations that we're dealing with at the moment, and pivot and adapt to make the most out of the context that we're dealing with at the moment. And how can you look after yourselves? How can you look after your organization? How can you look after your family and your friends in this really unusual temporary normal that we're experiencing? So as Ben mentioned, I wear many hats. I'm a high performance coach to CEOs and executives and business owners and entrepreneurs, and I work globally. So at the moment, I'm connected with leaders around the world. And sure, certain countries are doing it tougher than others, but in essence, what we've had to deal with is quite similar. We've had this sudden onslaught of change. And as you know, human beings don't sit well with change. We struggle with change and we fight it. And I'll talk through some reasons why that is problematic for us as human beings. And so we've been hit with this change. We've been hit with mandatory ways that we need to move forward over the next few weeks, months, or however long it is, and to adapt to a new normal. And so that's what leaders are doing. That's what organizations are doing. To some degree, we've had to scale back to our bare minimums in certain situations. And now we've gone through that crisis management stage. How can we move beyond that now, and to move from a threat headspace into a practical and effective and a high performance headspace? So that's one hat that I wear, helping business leaders around the globe and recognizing, in essence, we're all in this together at the moment. The other hat that I wear is CEO founder of Sydney Anxiety Clinic. And that's a clinical psychology practice where we work with adults, kids, and teens. Now, I mentioned Sydney Anxiety Clinic because this level of uncertainty and this level of change in a context, in a society where we were already sitting with what people might call an anxiety epidemic, where 25% of adults, children, and teens are experiencing anxiety to clinical levels. That's anxiety to the point that it's causing prolonged fear, suffering, and avoidance in people's lives. So that was what we were experiencing with before COVID-19. Now, what I'm seeing at the front end is that the context that we're living in at the moment has led to an escalation of anxiety and stress. So what I do, whether it's in a clinical context or in a day-to-day context for all of us, you know, we all experience anxiety to some degree. It's just part of our common human experience. But one of the key messages for today is, if you are experiencing distress, please do not feel that you need to suffer in silence, because there are so many practical and effective strategies that you can engage in now we've got a world of things at hand via digital. But also now at Sydney Anxiety Clinic, as an example, we offer digital therapy. So there is the capacity to connect and to seek out the help that you need, no matter where, no matter who. So that's the beauty of digital technology now. And so again, let's move from that stress, anxiety, despair, distress mindset that we might be getting hijacked by, and embrace practical and effective actions that make a difference in your life professionally and personally. So moving on. The objectives for today: how to manage worry, stress, and anxiety in a crisis. So that's what predominantly I'm going to equip you with, is if you're feeling this level of stress, what to do when your headspace is going into this crisis mode, how to feel more empowered and in control. And then what we're going to turn to is practical and powerful mood boosters. Anxiety, distress, stress, low mood, worry, they all kind of bundle together and they feed off each other. So in helping with anxiety and stress, it's really important to protect your mood. And these are practical and effective mind-body strategies that you can do even in the context of social distancing, how you can adapt your home environment to ensure that you get the mind-body strategies that you need to boost your mood. And so we're going to be going through some practical things there to really help each and every one of you. And what I'd love to equip you with as well today is a toolkit for you to not only help yourselves, but to help your kids and teens. For those of you who have got children and adolescents, we've been thrown into this place we call home all together. How can you be there for your children, be there for your teens, and how can you seek out the silver lining in your home environment? This is going to open up some actually really incredible pearls, amazing, beautiful opportunities to connect. So I encourage you, sometimes if in your business you're experiencing distress and despair, that your bottom line has been impacted, something heavy in certain situations, sometimes we have to look under a rock to find those silver linings. But we have to dig deep and try and seek out the opportunities, seek out the positivities, seek out the way we can move from anxiety into practical and effective action. So just a disclaimer for today, this is general information, general advice. However, if you are, as I mentioned earlier, experiencing distress, please do seek out the help that you need. I'll be able to give some powerful and all-encompassing mindset strategies for you to feel better in the situation that you're dealing with. But for some of us, for quite a number of us at the moment, there are people experiencing some significant hardship and some significant distress. Please do not feel that you need to numb those difficult emotions and shut them down. Connect with one another and seek out the help that you need. All right, and please do feel free to connect with me directly if you want any further information in the work that we're covering today. It's always an absolute pleasure. So what we're dealing with is, and I'll use the word, I'm sorry, unprecedented. I know we've been hearing that word a lot, but unprecedented uncertainty, unprecedented situation, in that we've never dealt with something like this before to the level that we are experiencing in our lifetime. And yes, on the news, on the media, we're hearing stories of horrendous hardship that people are going through, escalations of death and reported cases worldwide. So what this tips us into is sitting with this fear of something potentially bad happening. Uncertainty, I call uncertainty our Uber threat. It doesn't sit comfortably with us as human beings, right? Those of you who are involved in change management, a lot of you out there involved in supporting your people within your organizations, leaders, but all of us really. We crave certainty. And why? Because certainty equals safety. Yeah? When we can predict our environment, we feel safe. We feel comfortable. We feel at ease. So coronavirus has tipped our headspace into this next level uncertainty. It is our Uber threat. So if you're experiencing anxiety, stress, distress, please recognize that this is very, very normal, very understandable. So what is the uncertainty that it's thrown us into? As each and every one of you are experiencing to some degree, business pandemonium, yeah? When I'm working with leaders at the moment around the world, so I'm working with leaders in Europe, I'm working with leaders in the States and in Australasia, business pandemonium is the state of play, the consistency that we're dealing with to various degrees. And so what's happened is we've gone from overnight having to adapt, having to change the way we work typically on a day-to-day basis. And for a good couple of weeks now, we have been potentially to some degree having to adapt, having to pivot, having to adjust, and leaders, executives, organizations in crisis management mode. Okay, we got to absorb that. As courageous leaders, we've got to contain that, breathe in that stress, breathe out that calm, and say, hey guys and gals, we've got this. We have got this. We can do this. We can adjust, and we can find the best in what we are dealing with at the moment. And there's two ways we've got to adjust. We've got to adjust with our business context and the people who we care for, who we lead, who we engage with, our stakeholders, our clients, our internal and external relationships. We have to adjust. And in order to do that, in order to be courageous leaders and courageous individuals, who comes first? Yes, we come first, right? We come first. Now that's a bit hard when we are giving in every direction. That's hard, but as you well know, we can't pour from an empty glass. So check in on that personal stress, that personal anxiety, agitation, and in some businesses out there, despair that you are going through. My heart is connected to each and every one of you in the challenge that has been. So that's what we've had to do. We've had to adjust. We've had to accept this new normal. And now it is time to say, what can we bring into our control? How can we build certainty into this uncertainty? And that's what today is all about. So, positive messages for today. First and foremost, we have to build awareness around what is going on here, right? This part of our brain, our prefrontal cortex, it's the radar that picks up on uncertainty in our environment. And what takes hold? Worry. Worry takes hold. Will I go into lockdown? Will my business be threatened? What does that mean to my business? Will my livelihood be threatened? Will my family be threatened? Will my life be threatened? And fortunately, we are now moving into a stage where hopefully we've got this. We have pivoted as a community, as a society. We've embraced social distancing. We've engaged in the practical strategies we need to. It's really straightforward in essence. Social distancing, hand hygiene, respecting one another, and keeping each other safe and well. And hey, I am super proud at the moment. I am a proud Australian because we've done well. We continue to do well. So let's now sit in hopefulness. Notice what's going on here and recognize that that can tip us into anxiety. So we struggle with uncertainty. It ignites our primitive survival instinct of fight or flight. We want to know what's lurking around the corner. It could be something threatening, right? If we think about the cave people that are in us, life was really simple when we were cave people. Something was either going to sustain us, be a friend, or kill us, be a foe, okay? Our brain is still wired that way. We seek out friends and we avoid our enemies. We avoid our threats. We avoid the tigers. And this is why we don't like uncertainty, because uncertainty means that something dangerous might be lurking around the corner. We fight it. We try and get rid of it. We struggle with it. And so our mindset has been sitting with this uncertainty. Coronavirus, so many questions. We didn't really know the answers. We're now moving into a next stage. We have lots of answers. We know how to manage this, and we will. Together, we will succeed. And the beautiful thing about that is we're dealing with social disconnection, social isolation. But in essence, what we have here is connection at the deepest possible level. How amazing is this? We're all in it together. And so, although the connection that we typically would have has had to adjust, we can actually now embrace a new form of connection, the connection that says that we are all working towards a common goal. And in that common goal, we're dependent on each other. So let's lean into that and recognize there's no disconnection here. There's no isolation here. We are actually deeply connected. Feel empowered in that. We all have a role to play. Together, we will win this challenge that we're facing. So let's not fight uncertainty. Let's pivot, and let's adapt. Okay, because we recognize worry just leads to more worry. Worry is a really unhelpful mental process. So let's move out of this worry headspace. Let's recognize what it does in our brain, and let's move towards effective action. So what worry does is it triggers this amygdala hijack. We get hijacked by this primitive part of our brain that sends us into fight or flight. Now, we're all familiar with the battles that have been taking place over, we all know about it, toilet paper, okay? Who'd have thought there'd be so much news reports attending to toilet paper? Now, it's not like we can laugh about it, and how good is that we've been able to find the humor in the challenging life experiences that we have been experiencing. However, let's think about what's going on here. Supermarket brawls. We're not angry. We are just in this fight or flight headspace. This is the many faces of anxiety. So let's recognize what's going on here. The supermarket brawls. Ultimately, this is stress. This is our grappling with uncertainty. This is our primitive survival instinct at play. So we have a duty of care now to support each other, to understand each other through that, and to lean into help, to lean into care for one another, and to help each other move out of that fight or flight headspace. So our brain responds to perceived threat as if it's real threat, and it triggers this primitive survival instinct. But recognize, in essence, what I love to say is anxiety is in fact our superpower. When I'm working with people, whether it's at the Cine Anxiety Clinic, working and helping adults, kids and teens with more extreme levels of anxiety, or whether I'm working with high performance leaders or athletes, a lot of people here actually have this incredible analytical mind and this deep, passionate heart. It is next level superpowers right there, right there. Now, this can predispose us or tip individuals into a fight or flight, into anxiety. And why? Because individuals who might be a little bit more predisposed care. They care to make a difference. They care to do the right thing. And for those of you struggling at the moment, please be proud of who you are. This means that you care. This means that you care about your own well-being, about your organization's well-being, about your employees' well-being, about your family's well-being, your partner and your children. So understand where it's coming from. If you didn't care, you wouldn't care. So recognize a lot of anxiety is our superpower. How can we understand it and then move towards a more helpful headspace? Now, the MindStrength methodology is not really what I'm talking about today. Today is about how to help you move out of a crisis mindset into a practical and effective mindset. The MindStrength methodology is a methodology that I've developed to help business leaders embrace a high performance mindset and the mindset and skills to succeed professionally and personally. And it's a methodology to help people to work through anxiety. But today, what we're dealing with is how to deal with a crisis. So, no need to suffer in silence today or any day when there are really powerful and effective strategies to make a difference. And now, as I mentioned earlier, video conferencing technology, hey, what we're doing today is incredible. Coaching, mental health, connection around the world. It's bringing us together. And yes, we've had to embrace these strategies, but now we can offer a hybrid service in many respects. So whatever businesses that you're in now, I hope you're moving out of this stress and anxiety headspace into effective action to think, how can I think creatively? How can I seek out the opportunities in this situation? What can I do to adapt? Remember, adapting is key to our survival as human beings and key to success now and always. So I encourage you, think creatively, think out of the box. Sometimes again, lift up those rocks, see what you can find under there to try and help yourselves to feel more empowered. And the challenge with high achievers is a need for control, a deep desire for certainty and control. When we're in control, hey, we're on fire, right? We do things well, we adjust, but as you know, in life, we're not always going to be in control. So this is about acceptance of uncertainty and letting go of control and finding where you can build certainty amidst the uncertainty. So first step is notice when worry is taking hold. What is the worry story that's playing out in your mind? Can you get some distance from those worry thoughts that are taking place at the moment? And sometimes when we've got this hijacking amygdala, we want to breathe. Long, slow out breath. Right? Each and every one of you, I encourage you right at this point in time, can you notice where that muscle tension is? Can you leverage this incredible thing that we have called our breath? It goes with us wherever we go. Long, slow out breath. And breathe. And notice and validate rather than struggle. Acknowledge your thoughts and your feelings. This is critical. What we do in society, well, what do we do typically when we experience distress? When we experience stress, anxiety, low mood, what is our core messages that are almost built into us as part of society? Things that resonate in our mind. Now, I'm going to use references to men because typically these are the phrases that we were, some of us more than others, brought up to hear. Man up, boys don't cry, okay? We know these messages. I'm part of an incredible not-for-profit called Gotcha for Life. This is key to the messages we want to deliver to say, everybody recognize it's normal and okay to feel these emotions, and let's validate and acknowledge and support one another in those emotions and say, you know what, as we know, Are You Okay says it's okay to not be okay. Let's recognize that it's not about pushing those thoughts under the carpet and those feelings. It's not about trying to numb them. What happens when we numb those big feelings? We turn to ways, quick fixes of how to numb those big feelings. Things like alcohol, things like self-harm, things like or whatever we do, drugs, these things, but other ways, procrastination, avoidance, they're all ways to numb difficult emotions. And what is the ultimate expression of numbing big emotions? Suicide. We have got a horrendous number of people who take their lives because of distress, because feeling they're not good enough in feeling this distress. So I encourage each and every one of you, please, if you're feeling distress at the moment, that doesn't mean that you're no good. That doesn't mean that you're not coping. That doesn't mean that you're a failure. This means that you are just human and you are experiencing very, very normal, understandable emotions. If you have people in your current home environment that are struggling with some of this, because there's a lot of stress at the moment and we are contained in home environments that some people find it hard to deal with this stress. And what can happen is when we try to stifle some of this distress, we can get a Mount Vesuvius, we can get this all or nothing of emotions. So validate, acknowledge, support, connect with one another, really be there for each other. And that's how we can dissolve these big emotions. Very, very helpful and important. So accept uncertainty and it takes us out of that fight or flight. And then we want to bring our mind back to the present moment. It gives us a greater sense of control. Can we build the certainty amidst the uncertainty? So finally, can we move from worry into problem solving and action planning? How can you find the things that you can do? Don't struggle with the things that are out of your control, but bring it back to what is in your control and problem solve an action plan around what's in your control. On to powerful mood boosters. As we know, the mind-body connection is key to success here. For those of you who are personal trainers, I applaud you because exercise is key to success when it comes to mood. Therapy, exercise. Please embrace the help that you need. There's so much out there, so please do not suffer in silence. This is evidence-based. Exercise and movement stimulates dopamine and endorphins. You know this stuff. Please see how you can adapt your home environment. So what have I done? I've moved my furniture. I've created space. I've created a mini gym in my lounge room. Hey, I'm doing exercise with my kids. This is really, really good stuff, right? These are the pearls that are coming out of this experience. You know, I saw one of my leaders, one of my clients the other day, deep connection. I might not say exactly what was going. It was, okay, a bit of disclosure. Somebody was just engaging in some beautiful, really beautiful creative actions. I'll leave it at that with one of their children. And it was very, very lovely to see that these sorts of opportunities are coming up in our home environment. So meditation, mindfulness, relaxation, so much evidence to demonstrate the effectiveness of these strategies. Now, please recognize I work with, I specialize in working with high performers, CEOs, let's say senior executives, and how to, build successful machines in these individuals. And a lot of the people who I deal with can have a predisposition to tip towards perfectionism. And so we want to stand up to perfectionism, particularly in this environment. Have a think about it. What is the problem with perfectionism? It can lead to all or nothing thinking. And in this environment, we might not be able to have all. We might not be able to do the gym classes that we would normally do, or the, you know, the 20-minute meditations that best practice says, to lots of 20 minutes, or whatever it might be that the science supports. Really what I'm about is saying 2 minutes is better than no minutes. And yes, this is out of line potentially with what best practice says, to rewire your brain. But if you can do best practice, if you can embrace this, magnificent, that's fantastic. But I would like to see you doing something rather than nothing. This is what is going to help you to boost your mood. And what we're talking about is sustainability now, feeling empowered, feeling hopeful, engaging in practical strategies that make a difference. Can you focus in on something that gives you a sense of achievement, challenge, mastery? You know, I saw in an awesome initiative that TAFE is putting out, saying free programs online. Now, I don't know the specific details about that. I just heard it on the news. But wow, how can you leverage this time to make the most of it and embrace those opportunities that are coming through on digital? It's really, really fabulous. Please put fun things into your days, and kindness and gratitude. Kindness is key to our mental health and well-being. What kind of things can you do for yourself, and what kind of things can you do for the people around you? And embrace connection. So moving on, how can you help your kids? Find opportunities to connect. There's incredible opportunities. You know, 20-minute exercise classes. I was doing Pilates with my daughter. I mean, this is just fantastic. Typically, I would be at work, right? I work long hours. So now we have got this beautiful opportunity. Ask your kids, open up questions. Ask them, what would they like to know? How can you help? Validate their feelings. Acknowledge that there's no silly question. It's all really good. If they come to you with a question, empower them. What do you think we need to do? How can we adapt our environment to make it the best that it can be? Ask them questions and give age-appropriate information. Don't feel like you need to give everything. Create boundaries around that information, because there's some challenging stories that are out there. There's some challenging things that they can be exposed to on digital. So please do recognize that. Keep it age appropriate. And ultimately, the most brilliant thing you can do is be a role model of resilience. That means saying it's okay if you're feeling difficult feelings. That is okay. We're not robots as parents. We're not robots as leaders. We're not robots as employees working in organizations. But how can you respond to that in helpful ways to seek out the strategies that you need to make a difference for yourselves? And together we will win. Seek out the silver linings. Our mind will tip us to the negatives. Worry will take us to the threats. Be purposeful in trying to find the things that can help you, the connections amidst the disconnections. And by all means, I work really closely with my leaders. We have got amazing relationships of empowerment, both for themselves, but also working with the broader organization. So typically what happens is I work with a leader, and then I work with the leadership team, and then I work with whole organizations. And it would be such a pleasure to help each and every one of you out there if you're experiencing challenge, or if you just want to embrace strategies to build a high performance mindset professionally and personally. Look forward to connecting with you in the future if that meets your needs. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jodie. That was fantastic. Now, I would just like to ask people to use the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen there to ask any questions. And there's one open question. Usually we have hundreds at this point, so please don't hold back in asking questions while we have Jodie with us. And here they come, which is fantastic. Look, Jodie, I guess personally, the point that captures me so much is looking for that silver lining. And for us luckily as a technology company, I think we see that coronavirus has actually accelerated the adoption of technology and flexibility in the workplace. It may have accelerated the adoption of working from home and online meetings like this by 5 or 10 years. So that's one of the silver linings that we see. And spending time together as a family, it can be frustrating when we're all locked up together, but usually we have to go on holidays to have that level of time and connection with our immediate family. So there are plenty of good things in this. But now that we have some questions, I might throw them over to you. Do you have any suggestions for boosting the mood of my team together? I've seen people do group workouts, but I know lots of people at my workplace don't work out.
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. So I would encourage you to think about all of those various aspects to boost mood. And typically exercise is one of them. And there's many variants to exercise. So it's how can we embrace the imperfection in this? And I love what you're saying. It's about respecting people's diversity and respecting that different people have different needs. But as a team, as a collective, it is about being authentic. It's about sharing stories. It is about thinking exactly as Ben just said about what is going on in the home environment. But ultimately, to facilitate boosting mood, it's exercise. It's making sure that everybody is eating well, is staying hydrated, is getting sufficient sleep, but also getting out in the fresh air, engaging in nature. We are social distancing and we've had to sort of stay at home to a large degree. But if within the context of the regulations that the government is subscribing, there is still capacity to get fresh air and get sunshine and to do the things that our body typically needs us to do. So it's leading by example within your organization and encouraging each and every one of you to do these things that we know are evidence-based, supporting connection and boosting our mood.
Great. Now, where was that? I feel that this is from Deanne Black. I feel that looking for silver linings is easy if you're generally an optimistic person. But how do you encourage your team to look for silver linings when they are, sorry, that just moved. I can't find that now. When they are maybe not the optimistic one in the group, they're more of the realist potentially.
Yeah, a brilliant question. And what we want to do is recognize that different people are in different contexts. There's a lot of people who are suffering at the moment and suffering in some people are much more so isolated than others. So we have to recognize that everybody is facing different situations, and sustainability is key here because this environment is not one that we're designed to be experiencing. And also just to be cognizant that it might be, we're still sort of, week 2 at the moment. We've got to be sustainable. So this is why this is such an important question. Again, bringing it back to the slide around mood boosters, this is critical. When we're feeling down and we might have a susceptibility, and as we know, this is just the way the brain is, we have this negativity bias that can kick in. Typically, when we're feeling down, we're more inclined to do less rather than do more. And that can have a negative spiral that can tip a person from experiencing low mood into something that is having a much greater impact. So the big ticket items here are the things that were on that slide about, can you encourage each member of your team to build accountability around exercise and movement? That's big ticket item number 1. And movement, it doesn't have to be anything too extreme. Then achievement and mastery and challenge. something small every day and build accountability to that. This is an incredible mood booster. This is all evidence-based treatment actually for depression. Every day, one small thing. The next is something pleasant, something fun. One small thing. Small is better than not at all. And connection, kindness, gratitude, all of these things are going to make this current environment a lot more sustainable. And for those people who are a little bit more susceptible to some of these challenges, all the more reason. This is things that we all need to be engaging in at the moment, but particularly people who are feeling a little bit more vulnerable.
A fantastic answer.
Here's
one that that is, yeah, it's from somebody anonymous, but I think it's very important for, I'm sure a lot of people are feeling similarly to this. So, hi Jodie, I've tried to be strong for my staff and top them up, but my reserves are waning. My CEO and board members have not once asked me how I'm doing. How do I tell them without seeming weak to them that I'm not doing okay?
It's a really, really great question. Everybody's different and every organization is different. And certainly speak with whoever you feel you can speak with about this to get guidance. We can only ultimately control ourselves. We can't necessarily control how other people respond to it. So I do encourage you to look after yourself and to engage in some of the strategies that we're talking about today, and to feel empowered and see how you go with the discussions with people who you feel comfortable with, to talk it through and to problem solve an action plan. Whether there's somebody in the context of your environment in HR that you might be able to speak with, or any other people within your realm of connections to seek that guidance. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. It's very, very challenging what you're going through. So yeah, good luck with some of those strategies.
Yeah, another one here, which I can personally relate to is from Anna Collette. How can I override my natural tendency to work harder and longer hours at home? It's just so hard to disconnect when there is, there's always somebody at the end of the phone or Slack or whatever it is that allows you to continue working. So any suggestions on bringing that gap into your day?
Yeah, I feel your pain. I think we're all grappling with this sort of experience at the moment. Absolutely, it is a slippery slope, and I'm experiencing that myself. And so yes, we've got to pivot and adapt. So brilliant, brilliant question. You're going to help a lot of people by recognizing that this is a challenge. So we have to be quite disciplined around this and create boundaries. What we want to try and conceptualize is business as usual, and adapt our home environment to facilitate that as best as we can. So there is a bit of discipline in this, to build boundaries, to ask yourself, would I be still in front of my computer right about now? Sometimes yes, it just happens to be we're under the fluorescent lights in the office. But now, yes, it's harder when we're at home and it's all at home amongst us. So see if you can carve out a space that is your working space and create an environment that is somewhat like your work environment. So I'm doing VC sessions, almost back to back at the moment with my clients. So video conferencing, again, has been mentioned, these are the opportunities that we are embracing, that it's next level digital opportunities. But the challenge with that, I've got, for example, I've got a client now in the Netherlands who is wanting me to do a webinar at 5 a.m. And so I'm kind of recognizing that slippery slope. So what I'm very disciplined around is creating a workspace for myself. So when I'm at work, environment is such that it would be at the office. I get dressed for work. I get my morning routine as if I was still at work. So that's how I'm dealing with that. And so that way, my work is my work, and then my home is my home. It can be easier to carve that out if you try and maintain your work strategies and routines as if we were still at work.
That's great. I'm just reading through the questions here, and there's a sort of what appears to be a bit of a common theme, which I think I can put into one question, which is, how do you what's the right way to approach a colleague who you feel is suffering from anxiety and but they answer with a one-word response? You know, we always open, how are you doing? Good. So there's multiple people here who have said that they've got colleagues who they're worried about, but they're not quite sure how to approach that question. Can you recommend a set of words or approach?
Yeah, 100%. And this is very challenging for people, because clearly you want to help and you want to solve, right? That's what we do as kind human beings. We want to help other people and we want to fix their problem. You know, this applies in the work context. This applies in relationships. This applies as parents as well. And so what we do is we actually think that we need to jump to problem solving. And in essence, it's actually easier than we think. It's easier rather than harder. There's a step that we miss typically as human beings. Because we can do people, we jump to problem solving too quickly. And it's actually not our job to solve somebody else's problem. It's our job to help them to feel more empowered to solve the problem for themselves. The step that we miss is validation. And this is our superpower. There's lots of superpowers today, but awareness is key, as well as validation. What validation means is checking in on the emotions or reflecting on the emotions that another person is experiencing at a particular point in time. And that is so helpful for another human being. It's simply saying, you know, Ben, I'm sensing that you're feeling a little stressed out at the moment. I'm just a little bit concerned. How are you going, right? I'm wondering if there's anything that I can do to help. So it's a two-step process. It's reflection on the emotions that the person is experiencing, and then it's asking an open-ended question rather than what we feel we might need to do, and that's give the answers and give the solution and tell them what to do. Sometimes when we try to tell a person what to do, what typically happens, the brick wall comes up and they say, oh, don't want to deal with that right now. No, I'm good, I'm fine. So just experiment with that emotional validation, and sometimes those brick walls can really dissolve in that moment, and it can be a really wonderful opportunity to connect with another human being.
That's excellent advice. What about, there's, again, coming from a number of questions here, what about the people who are dealing with this in more isolation than others, i.e. that they're living alone, or they're living in a shared apartment, but not necessarily with close friends? I guess both of those things bring slightly different problems. One is the stress of living with people you're not familiar with, and the other one of not having anyone around. Any particular approaches to those issues?
Yeah, this is really, really hard for a lot of individuals in society at the moment. Isolation, the practicalities of what we're dealing with. So what I'm seeing is very wonderful human acts of kindness. You know, we saw it prior to now with the bushfires. We saw the essence of who we are as a society is amazing things come out in times of adversity. So if each and every one of us can take on that duty of care to extend an act of kindness and connection and emotional validation to people within our circle of connections, this can be amazing. You know, you are literally changing lives in that very moment by embracing acts of kindness in whatever is in your control. And if we all do that and extend that beautiful network that we have to leverage that, we're going to be helping each other through this to make this situation a little bit more sustainable.
There's another two here, and then we'll wrap up. But there's one about people who, I mean, it's quite common at the moment that people have been asked to reduce their hours, so working 4-day work week or similar. However, the workload hasn't really reduced. If anything, I find personally that we're more busy than ever, and I'm sure that there are people who are feeling incredibly overwhelmed by having fewer hours to get more work done. Is there any particular approach to dealing with that feeling?
To dealing with the feeling is probably engaging in a lot of the strategies that we've talked about today to help to make it sustainable and to look after yourselves alongside these stressful circumstances that you're dealing with. You know, just build that self-awareness to ask yourself, am I tipping into burnout? Am I feeling frazzled? How can I embrace small rather than not at all, just to fill up your cup? So if you feel like you're in that kind of depletion zone, do engage in this to help with the emotional experiences that you're dealing with. A lot of us are doing it very, very tough with some of this context. You know, I share what Ben was saying about, honestly, I feel busier than I've ever felt before. And certainly the level of stress around the world that I'm containing in my clients has kind of magnified. You know, it's 100x for sure. But for each and every one of us, it has magnified. So all the more reason to engage in some of these strategies that we're talking about today, and to say, this might be out of my control right now, but what can I find that's in my control to help to bolster your mood, to boost your mood, and to make this current context a little bit more sustainable for you, for those of you who are having to experience some of these challenging experiences.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Finally, we're on 12. We're on midday. So I think, are there any resources, so if people are asking those questions to their team and checking in more frequently with their team, are there any, and they find that there are team members that do need help, what resources can you recommend to people that are available out there that they should refer their team members to? And we'll follow up on this question and the answer to this question and put together a list of resources and institutions that can help with these types of things. But if you can just sort of maybe talk to managers and leaders, if they do ask the question and they get the answer, I'm not okay, I need some help, where do they go at that point?
Yeah, so we have got a digital infrastructure at the Sydney Anxiety Clinic that is offering help for everybody really now. So please do feel free to connect with us directly, sydneyanxietyclinic.com, or otherwise you can connect at info@sydneyanxietyclinic.com, and we'd be able to be equipped with evidence-based strategies. Oftentimes, anxiety and low mood, these sorts of challenges, with the right evidence-based treatment, you can turn problems around very well, very readily. So make sure you do get people, clinical psychologists who are trained, or other therapists who are trained in the right evidence-based strategies. But the beauty of digital therapy is we can achieve the same goals as face to face. So I'm not finding that that is a hindrance to providing people with the care that they need. Otherwise, drjodie.com.au, or connect with me on social media channels. I'm putting out content all the time, and really happy, as I said. Feel free to email me directly, jodie@mindstrength.com.au. So much to do to help, so much we can do together to help, and it will be such a pleasure in whatever way meets your needs.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Jodie. There are so many more questions there that we didn't get a chance to address, and some of them, just reading them now, quite emotional, and I really feel for all the people on this call, caring for your team so much, and I do hope that we can turn the corner here and actually start to drive through this and find that positivity and silver lining that we know is right there. So we will do everything we can to help you with that, and we will follow up to this webinar with resources to help you. Employment Hero is also launching surveys, and will this week include in the product in Employment Hero a online survey to check in with people, with your team, around COVID-19, just to find out whether they are doing okay. So keep an eye open for the surveys in Employment Hero to help you connect with your team in these ways. But otherwise, we're all in this together. We're all here to help. And thank you, Jodie, for helping us put this on for all of our all the people on the call.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's such a joy, and I really do want people to sit with hopefulness, as you said, Ben, because the MindStrength methodology, things can be remedied really effectively. So please, if your people are suffering in silence, do reach out rather than feel any sense of stigma and shame. If we've got a society where there are many resources available, leverage those resources so you can feel more empowered and hopeful.
Great. Thanks so much, Jodie. Look forward to staying in touch with you.
Yeah, me as well, Ben. Thank you. It's great to work with all of you. Take care.
Cheers. Thanks, everyone. Bye.